So Madeleine Mantock is leaving Charmed. What does that mean for season 4 and how does season 3 do? Let's discuss all of that and more right now. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're doing well. In this video we are going to be talking about the 3rd season of Charmed along with making some predictions on the 4th season as well. And wow, what an amazing and emotional and powerful way to end the 3rd season with the death of a Charmed member, which ironically does mirror back to the days where Prue Halliwell also left the original Charmed series after the 3rd season, which is just absolutely crazy. I wonder if we'll ever find out the real reason about why Madeleine Mantock was leaving. I know there's a couple of rumours out there in terms of she wasn't that happy with the writing for her character, so I wonder if we'll ever find out what really went on behind closed doors. But you know, with this season, I am a little bit mixed with it. I mean, on the one hand, I thought it was pretty innovative, and they definitely did take some risks in this season, and I also really like the way that they wrote in the pandemic with their own Charmed special spin on it, which I thought was really, really cool. However, I also feel at the same time they've taken this show so far away from what made the original series and the 1st season of the reboot actually really, really great, and as such they've really watered down what made the series really brilliant in the first place. Now with diversity and representation, now I know of course it's a really, really important topic and they've done a really good job in terms of championing it. However, I just feel like they're focusing so much on look how diverse we are, look at how progressive we are, over brilliant storytelling, and as such that's why I feel like the core fabric of this show just isn't working as well as it could have done. Like I said, the original series and the 1st season of this reboot were brilliant because they really did focus so much on excellent storytelling and really, really great characters, and I just feel like they really need to go back to this to really reinvigorate the spark for the 4th season. But let's talk about all the things to do with season 3 in this TV series review. So they opened up the 3rd season of the Charmed Reboot by concluding the storylines from the 2nd season, which was all to do with the faction, which obviously had to get halted due to the COVID pandemic. Now I just feel like they really rushed this storyline, especially as the majority of the 2nd season was really building everything up. And I just feel like they really wanted to quickly conclude it and then start the actual storylines that they wanted to do for the 3rd season. I mean, Julian as a character, such a big character, from the 2nd season was hardly even in the 3rd season. Now that may well have been because the actor only could do a few limited scenes because of the COVID pandemic. But you know, that being said, I just feel like they could have done so much more with the brilliant setup that they had at the end of the 2nd season. But you know, that being said, they did definitely show how evil and twisted and manipulative his mother is, especially when she got her evil fingers into the black amber and even was trying to steal and suck out the power from the Charmed ones. But they definitely showed that the power of 3 was too much for this character, who then ultimately got destroyed. But because she touched the black amber, this was then affecting all of the magical creatures, and this is how they wrote in their own version of the COVID pandemic, because the Charmed ones then have the allergy where they can't come close to one another or any other magical creatures for that matter. Now I thought this storyline aspect was interesting and I really liked how they did write it into this series. I just feel like it just went on for way too long. I mean, when they did kind of get rid of it due to the Perfecti entering the map, I thought, okay, fine, fair enough, now that storyline is finished. But then they went back to it and I just thought it went on for far too long. There were then just so many episodes dedicated to Mel and Maggie trying to find their voices in the human world, and of course we also had the Macy and Harry storylines going on. And both of those were really, really interesting. I just feel like at points it did feel like we were watching a different show to Charmed because they were focusing so much on these aspects over all of the really interesting magical aspects, which definitely took a back seat. Now I get that they were filming during COVID, and obviously the fact that we even got episodes in this horrible circumstance I think is absolutely brilliant. But like I said, they were just focusing so much on the human world, and obviously they did do this in the original series as well, but that was on top of brilliant magical based storytelling, and I just feel like they didn't focus on that as much as they should have done and could have done this season. Next up we have the Tomb of Chaos, which I think conceptually was quite interesting for a couple of episodes, but unfortunately I don't think it was as great as having a Demon of the Week. I feel like this time they were trying to be really clever and doing a new spin on it, as instead of a Demon of the Week we have an Ancient Monster of the Week, and I don't think they were as interesting or as epic as demons are. Also, some of the ancient monsters didn't even speak, and I mean, I think the beauty of having demons is firstly, you know, they're on the same level as witches, and they're really cunning, they're really evil, they're really masterminds with all of their thinking, and they're really conniving as well. I mean, the Kane family in the first season of the Charmed Reboot were absolutely brilliant. And of course, we have a whole plethora of brilliant demons from the original series. And I just feel like, it was an interesting new concept of bringing back the Demon of the Week, but this time putting a new spin on it. But I just don't think it worked as well as Demons did. And I hope they do bring back Demons back in the next season. Next up, we have the Perfecti. And I think they were really, really great. I think they had them in the right number of episodes so that you can feel their impact and that it is a bit of a continuing storyline whilst not being overburdening in terms of being able to be there for the entire series. And also, they did seem really twisted with their judgment, and also they did seem kind of unstoppable at certain moments as well. And I feel like they reminded me a little bit of the avatars from the original series in terms of stepping away from what's good and what's bad. Next up, we have the Whispering Evil. Again, another really cool short arc, which I thought was really, really great. I feel like this also gave the Jordan character something to do, and definitely did feel very end of the worldy, especially with all of the time travel and the definite apocalypse, and also another example of borrowing from the pandemic in terms of there being a virus that is going to kill everybody in the entire world, and it's obviously a new spin from the Charmed mythology. Next up, we have Harry, who was spending most of his arc in this season trying to become mortal, only for it to be undone in the final episode where he then reverts back to being a White Lighter. I feel like they did this obviously with the Macy character now leaving. They needed to change the storyline somewhat, which is why they've obviously returned him back to being a White Lighter. Next up, we have all of the storylines to do with Abigail Jameson Kane. Now, I know a lot of people aren't really Abigail fans, as she was taking a lot of screen time potentially away from the three core sisters, but I actually really, really like this character, especially in the previous season, with how twisted, conniving, manipulative she was in terms of trying to get the Demon Overlord throne position, and even was willing to betray her own brother to do this. Obviously, this season it was very much a redemption arc for this character, and she was mainly having storylines to do with Mel and with Macy as well. But I also really like when they were introducing her sister and her mother into the mix. I feel like they definitely could have explored this a lot more, and I feel like at the end of this season, the original plan would have been to kill off the Abigail character, then bring demons back onto the map, and then having a bit more of a witch versus demons war, which is kind of what they had in the first and second season as well. But obviously with Macy leaving, I feel like they then had to change up all of their plans. Then they gave Abigail a somewhat lackluster ending in the penultimate episode. I do wonder if her and her sister will come back onto the map, especially with her mother. They definitely show that her mother is a little bit of a demon witch character. Even though she isn't a demon, I thought it was a really interesting new mix. And I feel like this character definitely gave me elder vibes as well, so she would be really, really cool to bring back. And also Abigail and her sister definitely reminded me of Billy and Christy Jenkins from the final season of the original show. Then of course we have that very emotional final episode, which was the Macy farewell episode. Now I thought it was really, really great that they gave the Macy Vaughn character a proper send-off and a proper farewell. I mean, if you compare it to Shannon Doherty's Prue Halliwell character, she didn't get any kind of a dedicated exit at all. And it was really nice that they gave Macy the proper farewell that she deserved. I feel like it would have been better if they had done this across 2 episodes, as it was really nice to go into the dream scenarios with all of the sisters and kind of have their sisterly moments finally, which we haven't really seen since the first season, as they've all had their very individual storylines and haven't really been united as a trio. And it would have been really nice to have some more dramatic moments with her farewell. But that being said, it was a really nice exit for this character. I do wonder if Madeleine Mantock will actually ever come back for a few cameo appearances, because you never really know what on earth happened behind the scenes. It would be really nice to see the Macy character again in the future, but also for season 4, this now opens up so many new possibilities for how they're going to bring in a new sister into this dynamic, which I think is going to be really, really difficult, because the Marisol character, really, is she going to have another missing daughter? They kind of did the storyline with Macy Vaughn, which mirrored the Paige Halliwell character, being a long-lost sister that is now found and is going to create the power of 3. So it's going to be really interesting what they do next. But I'll be doing some predictions on season 4 later. But as far as the season 3 storylines go, I feel like, there were some nice moments in there for sure, but they definitely could have been so much better. So the cast and characters of the Charmed Reboot are really, really brilliant. So let's go through them one by one. So of course, we have to start off with Madeleine Mantock, who is playing the Macy Vaughn character. And I really like this character. At some points, I feel like this is definitely the main character from all of them in the series, as she's definitely the most interesting. She goes on a really interesting business journey. She's obviously got the relationship with Harry, and this is where the majority of her storylines were focused on this season, as she was trying to cure the allergy so that her and Harry can actually properly have a relationship. I really did like the scenes that they had in Paris as well, where they actually were able to be a couple. I thought those were really, really nice. And of course, she had her big farewell episode at the end of this season, and she's always really rational and really scientific and really analytical. So definitely brings a lot into the dynamic. And I also really like her relationship with Abby in terms of never really being a big fan of hers. And of course, her demon powers. I absolutely loved the idea of her having half demon, half witch powers, which definitely made her really, really unique, and incidentally made her a little bit similar to the Abigail character. By contrast, she didn't share that many scenes with Mel and Maggie. Definitely a lot more with Maggie than Mel. I feel like the Macy-Mel relationship didn't really exist this season, which I think is really, really interesting, but it's just such a loss that we've lost not only Madeleine Mantock, but also the brilliant Macy character, who, like I said, was the main character, which incidentally is actually really, really similar. Not only the fact that it was the older sister leaving, very similar to Prue Halliwell, but in the first 3 seasons of the original show, Prue Halliwell definitely was the main character as well. So I feel like there's so many mirroring and so many similarities, obviously unintentionally. And it's also a real shame, as if you watch the earlier interviews from Madeleine Mantock, she was so excited about this show, and it's just such a shame that she's had to leave it. Like I said before, we'll obviously never really know the real reason about what happened behind closed doors. I wonder if it's to do with the fact that the writing this season wasn't as great as it was in the first season, and as good as it could have been, as it really could have been absolutely brilliant, super focused a lot more on magic, the demon side, and all of the really interesting lore that they have within the Charmed universe, but hopefully they'll get a lot better in season 4. Next up we have Melonie Diaz, who is playing the Mel character. And the majority of her storylines, especially in the first half of this season, was all about inclusivity and trying to make the college a lot more inclusive, a lot more progressive, and a lot more understanding of diversity and representation, which I think is brilliant and is really great to include it. And at points it did feel like having diversity for the sake of having diversity. If you are going to have additional storytelling for the different characters outside of the lives of their magical selves, then you first need to make sure that the magical storytelling is absolutely brilliant, because that is why the core audience is watching this show before you can do the additional stuff. So I just feel like they need to balance their storytelling a lot more effectively in future seasons. Next up we have Sarah Jeffrey, who is playing the Maggie character. I really like the rivalry that she was having with the Antonia character. Both of them trying to get the internship in the beginning I thought was great. When they were trying to make them friends and they were both trying to work together, I didn't think there was as much drama happening over there, but also the on-off relationship with Jordan I thought was a little bit of a bore fest. I mean, the Jordan character doesn't really do anything. I mean, yes, he was going down that interesting arc about him being the Whispering Evil for a couple of episodes, but compared to Parker, who had so much depth and dynamism and really posed some really interesting questions about whether a witch can actually trust a demon, and how actually on a couple of instances she couldn't trust the demon at all. By contrast, I don't feel like Jordan's bringing any of that to the table, but you know, now that he's a white lighter, I feel like maybe in the future it will be a lot better. And also I really like how her powers were growing in a bit of a different direction, so she was having premonitions and emotional injection into characters as well. I wonder if they'll return the season 1 powers to the Maggie character, as they have kind of done that with the Macy character and with Mel as well. Next up we have Rupert Evans, who was brilliant this season as the Harry character. I feel like he did such brilliant acting when he had to play different types of characters, for example the child in the final 3 episodes, and also the Gollum type character who was obsessed with the orb and he didn't want to hand it over to Macy. I feel like Rupert Evans definitely was showing how much of a brilliant actor he was in this show. I feel like his arc in terms of him wanting to be immortal and then suddenly just flipping all of that in the final episode and him returning to be a white lighter was just so anticlimactic. And also the Jimmy character, I feel like they built up that character so much in the 2nd season, and then they just kind of got rid of him, kill him off in the first 3 episodes of this season, which I thought was a bit of a waste. Next up we have Donica playing Jordan Chase, and by contrast I feel like this actor doesn't have as much range in his ability, and I feel like all of the other actors and actresses were definitely outshining this character, as he did kind of feel like a bit of a spare part for a lot of the episodes. Like I said before, I know he did become the Whispering Evil, and that was interesting, but it was only for a couple of episodes, and I feel like outside of that, this actor and this character didn't really do that much. I feel like it will be interesting in the next season though, in terms of how this character is going to work. With being a white lighter, maybe they'll re-establish all of the white lighters, and maybe this character will become a bit of a dark lighter which I think will be really, really interesting. Next up, we have Poppy Drayton, who was back as the Abigail Jameson Kane. Like I said before, I feel like the majority of her storylines this season were definitely her redemption arc after everything she did in the previous season. Now, I much preferred Abby from season 2. I feel like she was a lot more cunning, a lot more evil, and definitely just did a lot more twisted stuff. And even just her dialogue, it was just a lot more witty, a lot more clever in the previous season. This time she was a bit of an extended version of the Power of Three, always helping them out in certain missions. I also really liked her sister Waverly and her mother as well. I feel like they were quite layered and they added a lot more dynamism and a new dynamic into this show. Like I said before, I honestly do feel like the finale originally would have killed off the Abby character, which would have then set up season 4 as returning back to basics in terms of the witches and the demons being back at war, as the demon overlord wouldn't have been in the picture anymore. But obviously they had to rewrite all of that, as the Macy character was then being written off instead. And then finally we have Josephina, who I honestly think was just so irritating and so pointless. I really do hope that the Josephina character isn't going to be the new Power of Three member, as she just wasn't really bringing anything to the table. I mean, like Mel's child from the future, or Josephina, I mean, like new family members entering the mix can be really interesting, especially with the original series where Wyatt and Chris were bringing so much new dynamism and brilliant storytelling. There could have been so much potential in having new members of the family, but they didn't really execute it that well this series. But you know, that being said, from a cast and characters point of view, while the cast were absolutely brilliant, the characters just could have had so much more to do. So from a visuals point of view, considering that it's a pandemic and obviously the production staff are very reduced and obviously the number of extras that they can have is also reduced, I think they did a pretty good job in terms of being able to film an entire season of a magical show, which is really, really great. I mean, the Tomb of Chaos scenes, whilst it is apparent that they are in front of a green screen, I feel this setting looks really, really cool, really, really eerie, and definitely has that hellish vibe in there as well. I feel like all of the powers that they use from the demons, the witches, and the perfecti, all of those look really, really cool. I do feel like with Macy's powers, they do look almost identical with the Power of Three blue zapping illustration that they use. They do look very, very similar. But you know, that being said, it does look really, really cool, very apocalyptic as well when Maggie and Macy went into the future. With some of the sets, I do feel like they could have made them look a little bit better, because they do feel like a bit of a rehash from season 2. I thought we would have only really been in safe space for season 2, but actually they're all mainly chilling over there in that setting for quite a number of scenes, and it would be really nice to kind of see them in new locations. For example, in the final farewell episode, I thought it was absolutely brilliant where you can see them in literal new locations with all of Macy's dreams. I thought the wedding sequence between Macy and Harry was really, really nice. It would have been nice to have seen this in the future as well. But you know, that being said, from a visuals point of view overall, whilst there definitely could have been some improvements, I feel like they have done a brilliant job considering that it's a pandemic. In terms of comparisons, unfortunately, I do feel like the third season of the Charmed Reboot is the weakest one of the 3 so far. I feel like they actually started on quite a high with the first season. You know, it was really reintroducing everyone into this world. They took a few risks in terms of changing up the mythology with the elders and adding really nice dynamics with an elder gone evil, all of the Sarkanas, all of the different groups, and especially just bringing it into a modern age. I feel like the first season was really, really good. I feel like with the second season, they wanted to take it into a bit of a new direction. They somewhat rebooted the entire Charmed world in terms of dropping the Book of Shadows and having a Book of Elders, having a new location, just a completely different mindset, with humans now being the main evil people. And with the third season, they were trying to reintroduce the human world, but unfortunately, they've just taken it far too much away from the fabric of the show and what really makes Charmed Charmed. And I hope with the fourth season, they'll just go back to basics and really re-energize and bring the spark back into the Charmed world. But yes, especially in comparing it to the original series as well, I don't think the third season of Charmed holds up, which, like I said before, may be why the Macy character is no longer here, because Madeleine Mantock was just a bit frustrated with all of the writing and the different direction that they were taking the mythology in. But in terms of comparisons, like I said before, the third season of Charmed Reboot is unfortunately the weakest. So it's really, really exciting that we are even getting a fourth season of the Charmed Reboot, especially when loads of other shows are getting cancelled left, right and centre. So it's really brilliant that we're getting a fourth season, and let's hope that the Charmed Reboot can go on for years and years and years. But here are my predictions of what I think is going to happen in the fourth season. So like I said before, I'm very sure that demons will now come back with a vengeance in this series, and we'll get to see loads of different type of demons against all of the charmed ones. I'm sure loads of other witches will also be brought back into the foray as well. All of the charmed ones have to protect them, and we'll get to see loads of different powers being used from not only the new witches, but also with the charmed ones themselves, and maybe they'll get back all of their original powers as well. You can kind of see Mel becoming a bit of a time witch again. You can see that Maggie is having abilities such as empathy again, and with the new sister on the way as well. This will obviously be a big and massive storyline for the next season, seeing how Mel and Maggie are going to interact and even find who this new sister is. Like I said before, I do hope that it's not Josephina. At one point I thought maybe Abigail may be the new sister that they're going to kind of put Macy's Power of Three into, but I just feel like they're kind of getting rid of the Abigail character now. It'll be really interesting to see who they are going to choose. I wonder if they're going to choose a big name, or if they're going to bring someone relatively unknown. I'm sure it'll be a very diverse person, which would be really, really great. It'll be really cool as well to see the elders kind of coming back. We've got to see a bit of a hint of there being multiple White Lighters with Harry and Jordan. I wonder if they're going to repopulate the number of White Lighters out there, and if Celeste is maybe going to try to bring back the other elders, which would be really, really great actually, as this will literally be an example of how to go back to basics. And I feel like with the charmed ones, with them being at the top of the pyramid, it doesn't really work. Like, they need to have someone a bit more superior to them that they can learn from and get guidance from. And I really liked how in the first season you were questioning as well, are that top governing body even trustworthy, especially with the Sarkanas not really trusting the elders and kind of being rebel witches. I thought that was really, really interesting. And Jada herself was a bit of a half witch, half White Lighter, so it was very close to the Paige Matthews character, and we didn't really see this character dying, so it'd be really interesting to have this character come back as well, which would be really, really cool. I also think that the sisters are going to have some money problems, so it'll be really realistic to see how they're going to overcome this human issue. I also feel like they'll be introducing new family members, and this time they're going to give them a bit of an evil edge. A little bit like the original Wyatt from the original series, where he was a bit more evil and obviously Chris was a good character, so it'll be really fascinating to see the different fractions between the Vaughn and the Vera family. And I also think they'll go back to time traveling as well. We got to see a little bit of this in the previous season, so it'll be really cool to go back to this as well. So I feel like there's so many brilliant opportunities and potentials for the fourth season, and I cannot wait for it to start next year. So overall, I am a massive Charmed fan, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next in season 4. I feel like this show has so much potential. It's so exciting that it's even come back, it's got a bit of a new flavour to it, and they are going to be doing new and better things. But like I said, they really do need to go back to the fabric of what makes this show brilliant, and just really re-inspire, reinvigorate, and just re-energize everything in this space. And I feel like they have got the opportunity now with the fourth season. But as far as the third season goes, like I said, there were some great moments, but they definitely missed quite a lot of tricks in this season, and they just could have made it so much better. And like I said before, it is the weakest one, unfortunately, from the seasons that they've released so far. And so for all of those reasons, I have to give it a 4.5 out of 10. I'd love to hear from you, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.